Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot and welcome to today's reading. So, we're going to jump in looking at what's really kind of been building and developing across these last couple of days. We had a couple of days ago, a lot of you woke up with this heavy energy that turned out to be something ending with your person and also a development of something maybe that had changed within them about some kind of perception within themselves. And so we're going to look into it today, especially after that extended that we did yesterday, maybe talk a little bit about what we found there. So it'll be a general reading for this collective as always. So if it resonates with you, think about subscribing, maybe looking into some of the more recent messages that have come out. And if this has helped you, think about hitting like, because that'll make other people, it'll make it pop up in other people's feeds who could potentially benefit from something very similar to this, or could benefit from this and these messages as well. So we're going to go ahead and start with your person's energy, because that's kind of where all of this seems to be housed. It's their energy. Of course, it's going to be a little bit of what is happening in that energetic and emotional backdrop. So it's going to bring in a little bit of what's impacting you. So some of this will be shared, but our focus is really on kind of what's going on with them in this energy, because it feels like that's where a lot of this energetic disruption has come from. And we know that from yesterday's extended, there is a lot of disruption in your person's energy. Yeah, we see the Patience card here in the reverse. Your person does not feel especially patient under this energy, but there's been a lot kind of happening. Remember, something changed that gave them a sense of relief and they felt kind of bad about it. They were forced to face this part of themselves. And that it just makes them uncomfortable, but not necessarily that it changes anything. So then we also have, so this is really like a six of, this deck is a little bit different. This is the Psychic Tarot. And so it has a little more in it than just the traditional 78 cards. And this one comes closest to kind of the feeling of the Six of Pentacles. There's an awareness in them about equal give and take of energy, but I still don't get the sense that they're really in a place where they can equally give and take energy. I feel like they're still working to get past some of those lessons that we saw that they were working through yesterday. And remember, some of the lessons that they're learning are things that don't happen quickly. So if you saw that extended, you know that there are some of the lessons that they're working through that are going to be a little bit more time consuming. They're probably going to take some efforts over time with regard to letting go, with regard to making sure that they understand what it is that why they're doing the things that they're doing, etc. But with this Patience card, it really is, it's a reference to the fact that they feel like they're being held in place. And the universe is holding them in place to a certain degree to help them kind of learn a lesson. And they are not quite ready to move forward with that lesson just yet. So they've got, here comes that strong desire to move in your direction again, because they want that unconditional love. So when I see the Queen of Cups come up, I often feel like, oh, hey, this is going to be fantastic. It's unconditional love. It's just a great amount of love and beauty and happiness. But here what I'm seeing is almost an unbalanced version of this Queen of Cups. Even though we see it coming in the upright, it has some of the elements that I would often associate with it coming in the reverse. And that has to do with almost that sort of grabby sort of feeling. They are deathly afraid of getting too close to you, which again, they feel like they've already done. And I say again, because I mentioned this yesterday, they feel like they've gotten too close to you and they're terribly afraid of doing so or having done so. Let's see, those fell down here, face down. But it's because of that fear of, they're afraid to let you leave them, or to have you leave them. And as I say this, the fear card comes up. And it's the fear of, it's three fears, really. I call them the big three: the fear of betrayal, abandonment, rejection. They all very much center in this and result in this Queen of Cups behavior. This Queen of Cups behavior that kind of, it makes them... it makes them kind of do things that are designed to get your attention, but that they don't even quite realize that they're doing. So they've done something recently that's gotten them out of a tight spot or out of a place where they had greater responsibility. Maybe something changed and gave them a sense of relief. But remember, if you saw yesterday, they feel bad about that sense of relief a little bit. And then when we got into the extended, one of the things that we learned they were especially reeling from was the fact that they've learned about themselves that I could shorten this to say they are capable of dropping their ego. They got a glimpse of what that would look like, and it was not necessarily especially well received. That's a scary thing. That's a really scary thing because that is something that they've always kind of felt was there to protect them. And that's the idea behind the ego. It is there to protect them. So we have the Five of Cups in the reverse. Again, that sense of seeing things that are, it's a little bit more than what they've seen in the past. Their perspective is broader. They are unable to unsee these things. So this perspective, this new perspective that they've gained, and we know from previous readings, including yesterday, that they've gained some new perspectives, but they're also sadly missing a few, or really they've got like part of it, but not the whole big picture. And I'm watching these cards come out. I think this is really interesting because it's like as I tell the story, these cards are coming out that have edges to the story. So they are feeling like they need to step up their game so that they can be as, oh, how do I put this? As eloquent as you are about moving through certain difficulties. They feel like they really put you on a bit of a pedestal when it comes to working through your fears, when it comes to working through your pain. And I feel like sometimes that's not super beneficial because it makes you seem greater, like more than human to them. Then they look back at themselves, they feel especially human, and then they start to engage in something that I would probably call self-destructive types of behavior. It really just doesn't move them forward. I don't know that this particular self-destructive behavior moves them backwards too quickly or anything. So here with the Knight of Cups in the reverse and the World in the reverse. This is basically them sitting in, like they've gotten to a crossroads and they've sat down in the middle of it. And we've seen them do this before, but it's a feeling of them realizing that they absolutely have to take one of those paths. But just saying, well, I kind of don't want to do it. Like this is an action, this is a card of inaction and a lack of inspiration. That's kind of what that card feels like. Sorry for all the pup noises in the background. She was taking a big long nap, and I guess she decided this was a great time to get up. So here again, we have the Six of Pentacles. Same energy that came in with this card up here. The Six of Pentacles and the Moon in the reverse. Ooh, with the High Priestess in the reverse. So there's a ton of sort of new awareness that your person feels, but not necessarily a lot of, like, they don't know what to do with it exactly. They feel new awareness with the High Priestess in the reverse. It feels like it's just coming to them. The information is just coming to them. With the Moon in reverse, suddenly things they kind of thought they had a feel around make sense. And some of this is really welcome and some of it is really scary. The part that feels really scary is the equal give and take of energy, and feeling like they would basically have to be able to be all in, kind of like what you had been. You are the example here, and it is something that they use as inspiration, but not necessarily, like, not for real. They don't want to get into a situation where they actively have to think about it. Here we have the Two of Swords again. It's about the decision that they have to make. I think it shows up in every reading here recently. They need to figure out what they're going to do. So they're sitting in this crossroads and kind of not moving forward. And that's part of why the universe isn't allowing them to move in the ways that they want to move. So they're feeling like they're being kind of kept in this stagnant sort of place. And so they're like, fine. And so they sit. But that's not super productive. They need to still be doing the work. And unfortunately, they're having a very hard time doing the work, especially because they're not quite sure exactly what needs to be done. They're not really asking. They are instead just using their energy, kind of trying to get away. So let's see what wants to come out for them here in today's energy, especially in light of kind of what we saw yesterday. We saw that whatever changed had given them a sense of relief that they kind of feel bad about feeling. We talked about that earlier. We talked about them, they're so concerned about moving into the next step, whatever that means. And it's something that happens with third party energy, but it's also about their own growth, that they are using your energy as a blanket. And so they draw you closer, they're drawing you closer and closer to them. But we also got the information yesterday that this may not be a great time to interact with them. They may not, it's not just that they don't seem to be able to offer emotional resources. There is more to it than that. It kind of felt like you have some things that you probably need to work on, whereas they are still very much in the thick of the lessons that they're learning, even if there's something about that third party that has ended. And then we saw that they've learned something important about themselves, and they're really working to make sense of it. So let's see what I dropped here. We have the card of moving on. We have the card of suffering in silence. And so these are wands, the equivalent of wands. So it's like the 9 of wands in the reverse and the 6 of wands in reverse. But it's got a strong sense of it's neither of those things. So they're not suffering in silence because they're hiding. It's not because they're talking to somebody. It's because at first I was like, oh, they're not suffering in silence. That's great. They probably needed to. Oh, no, that's not what's happening. They're also not moving on. They're not progressing. They're burying it. And that is what I used yesterday as the change that they're going through. I feel like they're burying it, and they're burying it under this blanket of emotion that is relevant to you, which is nice, safe emotion. I mean, in some ways, but not in other ways. They are feeling pretty unpleasant about things. So this is like the Ace of Swords, and they're having to face some very difficult things about themselves. We see triumph in the reverse, triumph in the reverse. They're feeling like failure. That is honestly what they feel like right now. They feel like failure, and they feel like burying it. And so this is a particularly depressive energy. We talked about that, that energy being so heavy, and there is a depressive element to it. It's them facing up to something that they've just kind of always been able to ignore, and now they can't anymore. So they want help. They want to talk to you. They want to talk to somebody who can make them feel better. You would be able to make them feel better, and they know that. They think of you as that, but then they also feel terrible about it and start to immediately retract because, again, they are learning the lesson of understanding why it is that they're doing what they're doing. And that is all of a sudden causing them to have to ask a lot of questions. When they look at their situations, put them under a microscope and really look to themselves for some judgment of what they're doing. They don't pass judgment. They don't feel especially good about it. So if you guys can hear the mowers in the background, sorry about that. Obviously, they got started halfway through our reading, but honestly, I never know when they're coming. So here we are with the Chariot. They've got the Chariot because they need to move forward. They've got this feeling of they can't stay where they are. This is just frustration and needing to get moving. This is not, I have a direction I want to go. And so that's kind of important, that there's not a real direction that they want to go in this energy. With this 9 of Wands, so we have the 9 of Wands. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. This is the 6 of Wands. I'm looking at it. I'm like, this does not feel like a 9 of Wands. What's happening here? No, it's a 6 of Wands in the reverse. So again, with the triumph in the reverse, it's a feeling of not having the success that they want to have. But I don't get the sense that that's permanent. I get the sense that that's just kind of something that it's a not yet. But they're very frustrated and ready to make things happen, would like to see things move forward more quickly. They've lost a lot of their patience, and we saw that here. Just keep kind of hearing it. We also have the Emperor that's come in here in the reverse, and it represents some of that lack of patience, but it also represents some of a need to kind of control a situation. They need to control a situation because they're feeling quite overwhelmed by it. We get that here with the 4 of Cups. They feel a need to control the situation, where they look at their themselves and realize that they do not need to, we need that. They do not need to be in control of the situation. They do not. That's what we saw yesterday in our in the extended, that they they can allow that to lapse. They can allow the control to drop. And they saw it. It was a glimpse. It was temporary, and it freaked them right out. So now they're looking at it. They're like, I don't even understand what my options are. They're overthinking it. They are, that's not part of it, but they're overthinking it, and they're trying to figure out like how to move forward from here. So they know they need to move forward. They have no idea how that is supposed to work. Not even sure how to take that first step. Honestly, they got to get up. They're sitting in the middle of a crossroads, but this is not like, I don't think they're aware of themselves enough to even recognize some of what's going down there. So got a 10 of swords. Yeah, they're being felled by pain right now. And the death card in the reverse. So they're wanting to move your direction, because of the way that you make them feel better, but they really aren't ready for the change that's going to result from that. And this is one of the reasons that I think we're getting the message this may not be a great place or a great time to interact with them right now. And I get that they have a lot of pain that they're working through, and that you would want to be there for them, and that they would want you to be there for them. But I also see that they're not going to be able to offer you more than what they've offered you in the past. There's still a lot of that kind of inconsistent energy that flows here, and they have a really hard time changing it. Like that's a specter hanging above them. They are not comfortable with the idea of having to have that emotional give and take. And we see it here, we see it here. It just kind of hangs over them like a threat. They do not feel comfortable with the concept of equal give and take from an emotional standpoint. And that's something that I feel like it bugs them. I feel like it really bugs them more than you might think. More than we might think that they typically would listen to something like that or think about something like that. Let's see, we've got this, the Four of Pentacles here. Four of Pentacles, what I really like about the way that this is coming out is it's like they recognize that they have a need to let something go. So yeah, we get that they may be heading your direction. They may be a little on the unhealed side. They have a lot of work to do. They're feeling like a failure right now, and this is maybe not the greatest time to interact with them. However, they recognize more about this, and they don't like what they see in all cases, but they recognize more about this than maybe they ever have before. There's something about that that is moving to a next level, even just being able to see it and register it. And to be sure, there are certain things that they are unable to see, unable to register. They don't quite know how to tell you they're sitting in a crossroads, I mean, they don't understand how to move forward, and they're definitely kind of feeling frozen about that. I think what we need to look at is this crossroads. When we get into the extended, let's look at this sense of why they feel like a failure and why they are essentially just kind of going into themselves. Like what is happening here as far as feeling like a failure? They have had some realizations that they could be incredibly free, and instead they're going like in a fear direction or a make me feel better direction, which I get that that's also a fear response. We'll look a little bit more deeply into that, maybe get you a sense of what to expect if they should happen to come your direction in this energy. In the meantime, though, let's get the you portion done. Let's do the part where we look at your lessons, what you're working on, and where your focus needs to be given the rest of what we have here on the table. And then we can go into the extended after that, and we will dig a little bit more deeply into what's happening with your person and what you might be able to expect from them. So think about what you need to do about that. When, like, if they come your direction, what do you need to do with this? Be thinking with regard to the lessons that that come out for you to focus on, given what's on the table, because that's going to be incredibly helpful. One of the first questions that I have is, wait a minute, what are you've been told not to, like, that this is not a great time to interact with them or contact them. What are you to do? So I see passion ignited. This is, remember, you saw the Ace of Wands come up. We saw the Ace of Wands come up for you yesterday because, and it was really about, this is interesting. It was really about taking your energy and pushing it forward, using it in kind of a more productive place than the place that it necessarily wanted to go, the direction that it necessarily wanted to go. The other thing that's interesting to me is that I read this as a Six of Wands earlier, and I recognize that it really is supposed to be like a Six of Water, but it totally still feels like a Six of Wands to me. I could see the water in there, but it feels fiery. So again, you've been given the recommendation to allow this energy to flow, but you know that you don't just want to use it to support what's happening here. So you may be needing to use it to support yourself a little bit, to prepare yourself for the concept of union, because we've seen time and time again here recently that there may be a union in your future a little sooner than what I had anticipated, based on what we'd seen coming out in these readings. Because what we typically saw was you're going to need to have internal reconciliations on each side, and then a reconciliation between the two of you. Then you can come into union, and that's kind of what you're training for. But what we saw here in some of these recent readings was you may not do those things in that order. So it may mean additional periods of separation, or it may mean that you spend some time in union and yet you're still working through some of those pieces that you ideally would have worked through prior to coming into union. But things aren't always going to work out that way. Sometimes perfect means something a little bit different than what you anticipated or what you pictured, and your person has really been learning that lesson. So you've got some fast moving energy that it seems like you're going to have to make decisions quickly, and probably consider the fact that things will not be the same. Like there's something that's going to change for you also that is not going to be the same. So you've got the Tower card here. Talks about change, but it talks about kind of a tumultuous upheaval. The thing that I would note here is it doesn't feel like this tower goes all the way down. So it doesn't feel like it falls all the way to the ground. You've built enough of a foundation here that part will not fall, and you should be able to build upon it. So there's something very positive about that. And then this is great. You've got like, you're a full package. You've got everything that needs to happen. You have the ability, the willingness, the everything. You're ready to move forward. You're ready, willing, and able to move forward. And you can do so with a sound mind with the King of Swords here. So these are things that are available to you, but you have to take it. Even in the midst of this change. This change looks like something that's going to be happening for a little while. It's not necessarily something that happens quickly. Again, more of that marathon than a sprint sort of energy. And with the Three of Cups came out meaning something other than third-party energy. I think I live for that. So there is something that you need to attend. Some sort of... it's a social thing, but it may be a work social thing. It's got something about it that's going to greatly benefit you. You get a new perspective. You have an opportunity to kind of point this energy. So the actual opportunity could be coming for you in this energy, and it may be coming for you in the near future based on what I'm seeing here. But it gives you some new perspective. It's almost an instantaneous new perspective, and gives you wow, this is fantastic. Okay, so this is a card of transcendence. So it's Nine of Cups in the reverse. So it feels like, oh, it's not wish fulfillment. It's not happiness. This is transcendence. It very much feels like a card of transcendence to me. You've got this Page of Wands, this Magician. This is like changing without having to go through all the steps. So, it's like when you look at the way that two people think, and maybe one makes these very logical decisions and gets to an answer, and then you've got another one that just kind of gets there, and you're like, what was that? How did you get there? I mean, it's same answer, but how did you get to it? This is that energy of you having the shortcut, like you getting to take the energetic shortcut, whatever that means. And it's not actually like going through and not doing the work. That's not what I mean when I say energetic shortcut, but there's something here about you being able to express something more easily or move through something more easily. Oh gosh, what all did I just drop here? Nothing face up. Okay, I still feel like we need one more card. Yeah, this is very shining, sort of beautiful energy on your side. Nothing too scary, nothing too, we've had some difficult energy on your side, especially because this is very much feeling happy despite the fact that the problems aren't all solved. And here we have, I can't necessarily sit down and rest when I want to. I can't necessarily consider all my issues solved when I want to, but there's still a feeling of accomplishedness, of feeling like they've done what they need, of you've done what you needed to do in a situation. It's an ability to sleep at night. Even though there's a lot of change happening here, I feel like you ride through it fairly well. Your person has a need to develop that ability because they know this about themselves. We've seen that in previous readings, but boy do they have a hard time getting their actual self wrapped around it. So we'll go to the extended here, and we're going to look a little bit more into what's happening with this energy with your person and the resistance, the feeling of failure, and what you can expect as far as them heading your direction, because that's what the energy wants to do. Now it's just a matter of them allowing it to happen and working past some of their issues to allow it, and some of that control. But I feel like that's going to happen definitely in some of these cases, and it just kind of has this overwhelming feeling of here it comes. Here it comes. So it's like, well, what is it? Let's see what it is. That's what we'll do when we get into the extended. And I look forward to seeing you there. Otherwise, I'll see you again in tomorrow's reading.